And we're live. MC and Mad talk the Civil War, episode 6, Fort motherfucking Sumter. So here we are, man. We finally made it. I'm sure this is going to be a very entertaining conversation as I school you on how Lincoln forced the South's hand and created the Civil War. Because that's what he fucking did. And you fucking know it, MC.
He didn't. And this is the problem. You see only one way, all right, for this to happen. And your way, the only way that this comes out, in your opinion, is the South. All right, there's no Lincoln had absolutely no reason for doing what he did, and he did. And he
had a reason for doing it. He had a reason. It was to force the South's hand and to justify his goddamn bloody
it wasn't.
War.
It was to sit up there.
Yes, it was.
It was there to sit up there and reassert, all right, the federal government. And the federal government had to be reasserted.
And the federal government,
if you were going to have a constitution anymore.
Then why didn't fucking the previous president do anything then?
You get all frustrated with this, but let's talk about this. What would have happened? All right, now, all right. First of all, go into what you're going to, because I don't want to get ahead of this. All right, because people do need to know, some of the circumstances.
Okay, my contention is that Abraham Lincoln knew damn well when he resupplied Fort Sumter that was the first shot. It wasn't the South Carolinians firing the first shot. It was Abraham Lincoln. And
you're making an excuse right then. And you're making an excuse right then and there. All right. At that point, right there. All right. You have the South. South Carolina doesn't need to fire.
We warned them. We told the motherfucker.
Matter if Iran tried to warn somebody, don't do this or I'm gonna fire on you, all right, we would still do it as well. All right, if you tell the police don't come in here, I'll open fire, the police generally will ignore that and go in, whether you quote unquote warn them or not. Nobody knows in those situations, especially when it hasn't happened before, all right, what the actual results of all of this are going to be. And what's more is even if that's the case, even if you do know that, all right, it doesn't change the facts that Lincoln had, and it doesn't justify the violence that was initiated by the South.
Did a single person fucking die in the shelling of Fort Sumter? You want to talk about violence?
Had more to do with areas of accident than anything else. And if you don't believe me, explain why a horse died.
Well, everybody knows
the only casualty was a horse, a southern horse. Okay,
God,
so you're not.
I don't want to say that. Like the only casualty was a fucking horse. It wasn't Mr. Ed. I mean, then
I don't know. He was speaking South. Nobody understood him.
Oh, it's like that. Fuck you, buddy. Fuck you. Okay. No, let's set the stage a little bit here before we actually start yelling at each other. The lead up to Fort Sumter is what I'm talking about. When I'm saying that Abraham Lincoln forced the South Carolinians' hands, it's because he did. No. If the South Carolinians allow that fort to be resupplied, then they admit that secession is illegal.
No, they don't. I mean, right? It doesn't change. It doesn't change anything. Okay, but go on. This is where I want to explore, because it wouldn't have actually changed anything on the ground. All it would have done, right, was given time of looking for another possible freaking way of going about this.
Yeah, but time for what? For the Southern delegates that were sent to fucking D.C. to actually be seen? Because everybody knows Abraham Lincoln wouldn't have seen them. He said that he wasn't going to legitimize the Confederacy. At that point, we are on a standoff. Either the South allows that fort to be resupplied, and they admit that they have no right to secession.
No. That's nonsense. All right. If they don't allow, if they allow the fort to be resupplied, what changes materially? Nothing. Nothing changes materially.
Yes, it does. You're allowing the federal government to have that fort. and you at this point you can't allow that.
I'm sorry, but you can allow that. You can allow annoyances that you disagree with, and you see it militarily all the time. There's a lot of things that we would like to see redressed that we don't redress. If you don't believe me, take a good look at Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay is in the middle of Cuba. Cuba has basically said it's ours, and you can't be here. And we're like, okay, well, we're here. It doesn't change the fact that Cuba doesn't like it. It doesn't change the fact that Cuba considers the U.S. being an invading force there. It doesn't materially change anything. And it wouldn't have materially changed anything at Fort Sumter if they'd allowed that fort to get resupplied.
Yes, it would have. You're legitimizing the fact that the federal government has control over it. If
you think that the Cubans consider the fact that they haven't attacked Guantanamo Bay as a legitimation, you're just kidding yourself. You're fooling yourself. That's obviously not the case. Come on now. You can't seriously look at that and say, yes, that's that they consider being legitimate. They don't.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. We're just going to go round and round on this one. But, you know, we expected it. It is Fort Sumter. But
you're not answering the question. What would materially change on the ground?
The fact that you allow them to fucking have that territory. If you're saying that the federal government...
No, it's not that you're allowing them to have it. It's a matter of you're not willing to sit up there and go to frickin' blows for war for it. And initially, what's even more is you by firing on Fort Sumter, all right, you've ended any opportunity at a negotiated settlement. Period.
There wasn't going to be a negotiated settlement.
No. See, that's where you're completely wrong. There were legal options and legal avenues, right, that the South refused to explore.
Abraham Lincoln refused to even see the delegation from the South.
That methodology breaks the Constitution. If you can't understand that, if you cannot understand the power of what that would do to the Constitution and the fact that we no longer had a country with the rule of law as its basis, then you're freaking myopic. This was the core of this. This is the reason, all right, Lincoln was saying, look, the Union, this is the Union. In order for the South to secede, in order for South Carolina could have continued to do little things to be a constant irritant, all right, aside from freaking like not send taxes for it, refuse to sit up there and obey the taxes. I mean, there's a lot of things they could have done. Hold on, let me finish here. Short of war, and while they were doing that pursuit, right, they could have been easily working within the Congress, right, to develop support to let them go by several other states, including, all right, a number of northern states. And they possibly could have gotten out of the Union through those means, which would have been perfectly legitimate and wouldn't have broken the Constitution. Instead, they fired.
You're killing me, Smalls. In the first fucking episode of the series that we did, you laid out to me how nullification is unconstitutional and null and void. But now you're telling me that they could have did nullification.
Nullification is not the same thing as legislation. Understand that.
Fair enough. I'll grant you that. I think it's hilarious though. Like, nullification is a remedy within the Union. Secession is a whole different beast.
It's not a remedy. It's not an acceptable remedy ever. You've created this whole idea in your own mind that somehow
I didn't create it. Calhoun did. Calhoun created it, not I.
Calhoun was wrong too about a lot of things.
Well, fair enough. Okay. I mean, really, I think we need to actually set the stage here about Fort Sumter. So I want you to actually, I want you to actually go ahead and set the stage. I'll mute myself and let you go ahead, sir.
Okay, so what's happened now is Lincoln has been elected. All right, in December, before Lincoln is even inaugurated. All right, South Carolina has a convention where they say, okay, we're going to secede. We now declare ourselves a republic. Now, this is a surprise to many states. It's not just to this and to include many southern states. All right, and there are many people who are saying, yay, we can sit up there and create our own thing. We're our own nation again. Right, as if somehow that was going to create your own nation. There were even articles being written at the time that South Carolina is too small to be a republic and too large to be an insane asylum. Right.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Okay, so but South Carolina was quickly followed. The second state to secede, of course, is Mississippi, which
I thought it was Louisiana.
No, or Mississippi.
Okay, it was
Mississippi was I think the second one, and then the other states begin to follow during the secession movements. Now they're taking place over time. You have obviously this took place late, like I said, the first state of secession for South Carolina took place in late December of 1860. 1861 in January. All right, several other states secede, like I said. You end up with the initial total of 7 states. They decide to, which includes Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, obviously South Carolina. I don't know if Florida had North Carolina Florida did not. North Carolina has not. This is the last state to secede.
Yeah, they followed Virginia out. Yeah.
Right.
But because no, I think Florida. I think Florida did secede right alongside Louisiana. It was like rather quickly how all the states, the cards started to fall.
Those states fall. In Texas, the governor is Sam Houston. Sam Houston attempts to stop the secession. They basically arrest him and kick him out as the governor. And then vote for secession and then secede.
Well, no, and actually, I wanted to bring this up on a previous episode, but I never got to it. Maryland was going to leave the Union. You realize that, right? Maryland was going to join the Confederacy.
Maryland would have possibly have gone the same route as.
Yeah, if Baltimore wasn't sieged upon by Abraham Lincoln and his ilk, they would have left the Union.
Well, at that point, you're talking about what's going to happen from a federal standpoint, all right? But Lincoln is goes through his inauguration in March, all right. So Baltimore hadn't, the Maryland hadn't gone to the point of trying to secede very rapidly, right? So obviously, several of the southern states hadn't done that. Virginia hadn't seceded yet, etc. All right. Once Lincoln takes over, now he's dealing with a very chaotic situation. Okay, you have to understand what he's having to deal with as president. All right, he's losing officers left and right in the military. The military is in the middle of just coming apart as people resign their commissions to go and leave the Union and so forth, and they're for their southern to their southern states. So a lot of the officer corps is disbanding. There are people that are sympathizers within the military at this point. Now I'm talking about this strictly from a military aspect, but this was going on across the board throughout the administration. Right, there's a lot of things, a lot of the bureaucracy, right, which is in an upturn. It's in an uproar, right, and this has to be settled down. And at this point in time, this is a change. This is a changeover, all right, in administration. You got to also remember that Buchanan was a Democrat. Okay, so there are political ramifications along these lines as well. Buchanan being the outgoing president. So that part of the administration is also being revamped simultaneously.
Well, no, and I said it before in a previous episode, and I'll say it again. Buchanan was a little bitch-made motherfucker. He could have fucking stopped this shit, but he didn't. He
Well, I
sat
don't
on
know
his
if
goddamn hands and allowed it to fucking happen.
I don't know if he could have stopped it. All right. The problem was much deeper than just Buchanan. Right. I mean, what were you expecting Buchanan to do? All right.
Either legitimize the idea of secession or say it's fucking illegal and handle it.
Why should he be the one who
because he's the goddamn president?
Hold on. At that point right there, he would be hamstringing the incoming presidency. All right. No president, for the most part, attempts to do that. Very few presidents will sit up there and try and hamstring the presidency, the incoming presidency, even if it's of a different administration. It's not a common thing. So
yeah, but I still don't like the idea of a lame duck presidency. Either you're president or you're not.
Could he have acted sooner? Could he have done things? Yes, he could have. Do I wish that he would have done things differently? Well, yeah, but at the same time, from a political standpoint, I understand why he didn't. I don't agree. I agree with you in that he wasn't acting presidential, and that's quite unfortunate. All right, but I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubts with the idea that, okay, as at this point in time, all right, it would be better if he just allowed things to play out, because as a lame duck president, he can sit up there and say, well, I don't want to hamstring or cause a redress or
hamstring the incoming president. Dude, half the fucking union just left. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
like, how was he
going to stop the South from leaving?
I don't know. Could he have? I think he could have did something. I mean, he did absolutely nothing.
He could have kicked the war off sooner. It would have at that point.
No, he could have legitimized the idea of secession as a real political action.
The idea of secession. Once again, I keep coming back to this, but you don't want to listen. If he legitimized the idea of secession, you basically at that point throw out the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution. Period.
I don't care.
I believe, well, of course you don't care.
The union is a voluntary union, and that's the whole idea. It is not a
voluntary union. It was never a voluntary union. Your opinions are not the driving factor. Okay, just because you had,
I'm about ready to kick you off my cabinet, MC. Like, I've had about enough of your shit. You're fired. Okay, no, I'm kidding. No. God damn it. None of your business in the chat brings up a really good point. Florida was the third state to secede. South Carolina was the first. We covered that. And then Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The cards started to fall rapidly at that point. And I do believe that Buchanan could have done something about it. I really do. I don't like the idea of a lame duck presidency. I don't like the idea that you sit on your hands and watch the goddamn union fall apart.
Ordered immediate seizing of South Carolina. What would the effect of it?
Maybe 600,000 people wouldn't have died. Maybe. I mean, okay. If your idea is that the union is a perpetual union and it's not voluntary, and that the North was right, well, then I grant you that. Just maybe it should have been intervened before 13 states fucking left. Maybe you could have handled it when it was just South Carolina. You know?
Well, okay. The problem with that was very, very simply, as soon as that happens, you end up with the whole situation unraveling. Right? You got to remember. I mean, this wasn't just affecting obviously Abraham Lincoln. This is affecting the different people within the the administration also of Buchanan. Now, could Buchanan have done something? Should he have done something? In that regard, I do tend to agree with you. He should have acted, all right, more presidential, all right. Is it I don't like the fact that he didn't either. But then again, what I was trying to say was that I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt in that, okay, he's not trying to go down, all right, in history as the one who basically started the war. All right, so
No, well that
I can,
honor is given to PGT Beauregard, but you know, whatever.
Beauregard.
Well, he's the one that fired the first shot, as far as you're concerned. My contention is and remains that Lincoln fired the first shot by sending the ship.
Lincoln did not fire the first shot by sending the ship. Once again, I go back to that the situation as it exists. So, but now what's happening across South? I want to finish setting the stage so people understand. What's happening across the South is the United States has federal groups all over, federal troops in several different areas, including in Texas. The commander in Texas immediately retreats to the ever ashamed, to including his wife, who basically calls him a coward. All right. But federal land and stuff has been seized in several areas across the nation at this point. There's been, I wouldn't say fighting, all right, but it is basically the kind of what you see with like Antifa kind of crap, all right, going on and taking place, all right. And I say Antifa only in regards to the fact that you got to understand it's a different time frame. All right, the actions were actually more serious than what you see at these Antifa rallies and these recent rallies and stuff. But at the same time, from their perspective, they weren't that serious. It was just more of what they would call a kerfuffle, as Cabbage has termed the word. Kind of more of a dust up rather than anything serious. All right, Fort Sumter. All right, Major Anderson initially retreats out of Fort Sumter, or out of where he was. I can't remember exactly where he was, and into Fort Sumter, which is in the harbor. Why does he do this? Mainly because in the harbor he's got natural defenses. In order to take the fort, they would have to actually go across the river. It's possible then for the Navy to supply him, etc. Okay, so
and to be fair though, the fort wasn't even finished yet, right? Like it didn't even have all the walls up.
Right, it doesn't, and of course, one of the first tasks were, finish building the freaking fort. Put up these walls and make them as big as high as possible, right? Which basically the troops actually do, and which is a testament to just how they were able to do things. Now, the question had always been and was posed to Buchanan, all right, do we resupply the fort? All right. From a military standpoint, is this a tenable position? All right. The Buchanan refuses to make any commitment one way or the other. All right. Lincoln says when he takes over, he goes, okay, let's go ahead and initiate the operations to resupply the fort. Now, you got to remember, once again, these commands are being given to the Navy, which is having the same problems that the Army is. All right. There are times when your orders are being listened to, and then somebody leaves and your orders are countermanded, and there's a lot of chaos going on within the armed forces because so many people are leaving. And what's more is that there's people that aren't leaving, but they're actually in the middle of saying, okay, I'm a Southern sympathizer, and they're actually engaging in sabotage. Now, the sabotage at this point is fairly minor. They're not actually blowing things up, but what they are doing is they're misrouting orders and doing shit like this, and they're doing it intentionally.
Yes, and they were also ripping up the fucking railroad tracks as they headed back home.
Well, there's those things that were happening as well. I'm just going into, there's a number of things that are happening. All right, when Lincoln does issue these orders. So when he does issue the order actually to resupply this, he attempts to do this by saying, okay, I'm going to cut some secret orders. All right. So the South doesn't know this is actually happening. Well, it doesn't work. Okay. The South knows it's happening anyway, so it tells you how just how freaking ridiculous the situation actually was. And these orders were supposed to be what they called sealed orders. They were orders that were supposed to be sealed by the Navy Department, handed directly to the lieutenant who's supposed to be in charge of the fort, sending the supplies to the fort. All right.
Yeah. Well, no, and
had not been fed. They were on half rations already, because they weren't getting supply. All right, so this is why it becomes a supply issue.
Well, real quick, None Your Business says in the chat, the Emancipation Proclamation only freed Southern slaves. The North did this to cut financial backing from the South to keep them in line. I would add in there that's jumping forward a little bit. We'll get to that.
That's jumping way forward, because there were a number of reasons why.
No, then okay. You know what the reason why the Emancipation Proclamation came about? It was to keep the British out of the goddamn war. Come on, you know that.
That was one of the reasons. It was not the only reason. It was far from the only reason why it was done. To say that.
Well, you're right. That wasn't the only reason. The other reason was, I don't know, to create a slave uprising amongst the Southern population. Isn't that something that we accused King George of trying to do?
That was not. To be honest, I'm sure that part, even if it was thought of, was considered a minor aspect, a completely minor aspect.
Really? Yeah. Really, when you're looking at 3/4 of the whole Southern population, really, because the slaves did outnumber the whites 2-1, pretty much.
No, they didn't. What are you talking about?
There was a large population in the South.
There was a large population of
a slave uprising was a real fucking fear.
All right. The population, all right, of the states in South Carolina, I think, was probably the most where you had more blacks than whites as a population, but that was the only state actually that dynamic existed in. All right, the other states, yes, there were significant populations of slaves, right, 30-40% in many areas. But also there were states that it was really only 20 or 30%, 20%. So the population, I'm not saying that a slave revolt and a slave uprising wasn't a concern, but it was more of a concern for the South in how they were looking at things than it was an aspect from Northern planning.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, I'll back off of that point a little bit. I'm going to grant you that, because I don't think Abraham Lincoln necessarily wanted an actual fucking slave rebellion, in a Spartacus type of style. Yeah, I mean,
it would have created a different dynamic within the United States if that had happened, actually. But that's a what if issue, and I'm not interested in going to that what if issue at this point in time.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's check the chat here again. None of your business says, I'm a Southern now. Y'all Yanks were just power hungry. I agree. Defend yourself, Yankee. Defend yourself.
I am. I put it very specifically. You've got to understand what secession was doing. I've said this many times. You guys just don't want to argue that I'm wrong. You don't want to bring up any facts about.
I am arguing that you're wrong, because secession. Dude, we are not in a perpetual union. We're not.
You just virtually declare. You bring in no facts to prove that it wouldn't have broke the Constitution. If my contention is that the reason that the secession was illegal, all right, has to do with the fact that what you're doing is breaking the Constitution, all right. If I'm wrong about that, point out where I'm wrong. Point it out.
The Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Independence is not the ruling document.
The Declaration of Independence is a secessionist document, is it not?
We're not talking about
the United States was born on secession. So for you to tell me that it's illegal
in rebellion, not in secession.
Okay. They left the fucking British Commonwealth. They left. They seceded. It is what it is, man.
There was no British Commonwealth Okay, there was
Fair
only
enough.
the
I was
British
stretching there.
Empire.
I was stretching there a little bit. Fucking asshole. I was hoping you were gonna let that one go, but I guess not. God damn it.
Jeez. My point still remains. Okay, it wasn't that Lincoln was a power mad or power hungry individual.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't.
And yes, he was. Lincoln
No, he
was
wasn't.
a son of a bitch.
No, he wasn't.
Are you saying his mom wasn't a bitch? I mean, how can you even back that up? How do you know? I'm saying he's a son of a bitch. Okay. So the only thing wrong with John Wilkes Booth is he was 3 years too late, right?
No, he was an assassin. And he was a
yes and no. A coward, really? The motherfucker jumped from a goddamn balcony. I mean, that's pretty boss.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Where was John Wilkes Booth? All right, during the John Brown raid.
Oh, he was there. Yeah, he watched it actually happen. That's right.
He didn't watch the raid happen, but he did watch the hanging because he was part of the Richmond Greys, which meant he was part of the militia, right?
Well, I'm glad that you're backing. I'm glad you're backing my brother up. John is a good guy.
Yeah. No. Not only was he a member of that, when the actual secession began, instead of actually joining with the regiments and becoming part of that group of the South to actually defend his state, what did he do?
Well, real quick, actually, straight with mail. Lincoln didn't save John Wilkes Booth's son from getting ran over by the train. It was John Wilkes Booth's brother who saved Lincoln's son from being run over by the train. I have heard that story. So yeah, you have it a little bit backwards there. But isn't that weird? Like coincidences, man. Like seriously, crazy shit.
It was a much smaller world back then.
Yeah, but they still had big trains. Anyway, no,
I mean, people were, you didn't have little ideas of how to get on trains. Were not as well developed, and if somebody stuck their head out and got a whack because they weren't paying attention, other people were like, "Oh well," and they were then up as their children. That's one of the reasons why you don't walk across the street without looking.
Can you do me a favor and expand upon that idea for a second? My son just woke up from his nap. I gotta go grab him. So I'll be right back.
So basically what you have is you have Lincoln decides to go ahead and send supplies, basically food supplies, all right, to the men that are starving in Fort Sumter. Okay. Now, once again, as I had previously said, the idea of how this was going to be resupplied and when it was going to be resupplied was intended to be secret. The orders were supposed to be sealed at the Navy Department, handed over, and for all we know is that they were. But the South was fully aware of the mission and fully aware that the food relief was now going to take place. Now the South, however, and the commanders in the South, now they have a quandary, all right? Because, all right, if they let the food go in there, nothing materially changes, all right? Physically, the fort is still surrounded, all right? Now, the question then would become, okay, what's the next step? What's the next move? Does the North, then the next time, do they bring in food and extra troops? Do they land more federal troops and continue to a buildup, and then they just watch the buildup happen, or do they attempt to take action militarily? This is now the ball is in. Hold on. No, go ahead.
Well, they didn't even fucking do that though. He attempted to resupply the fort, and then after the ship got fired upon and turned around, he just fucking gave up. He was just like, whatever, like I got what I wanted. Now I'm calling for 200,000 troops.
What I mean, he got what he wanted. What other choice did he have? The next day after
let the South go. Let him go. That's the choice he had.
Once again, you can't let the South go without breaking the Constitution.
The South wrote their own Constitution. They already had one. We're good, brother.
What the South wrote, you're not dealing with you either have a government or you don't.
You have a Southern
Confederate. What the South was saying was, basically what the South was saying is we don't care what agreements we're a part of. We don't care what the government says.
That's bullshit, and you know it. No, that's bullshit, and you know it. They offered to pay their fucking debt.
If they offered to pay for it, then they had to be admitting that they didn't own it. You can't play both sides of that game, Mad Dodge.
Fair enough. Okay. Pinoy News says, where does Liberia come into this? Well, Liberia was Abraham Lincoln's pet project to, release the slaves.
Liberia comes into place after during Reconstruction. We can talk about Liberia and Reconstruction.
Yeah, we'll cover Liberia when we get to the Klan. Anyway, moving on.
Not really so much. I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to discuss the Klan in that aspect. I mean, that's a part of the thing that we can't we're not going to be able to avoid. Nor do I want to. I mean, I avoid it. Right? It's something that's a very, very important aspect of what's coming. But
of course you don't want to avoid. Yeah, of course you don't want to avoid it because that's where you're going to fucking nail me on.
I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it as nailing you. I look at it as it's not a good time in American history. It's not one of the prouder moments within American history. Exactly all this went down. But
a military dictatorship is a bad thing.
It's not a military dictatorship, and you can't.
Yes, it was. They split up the whole entire.
We'll talk about it.
It's a military district.
It was not a military dictatorship. You're just trying to use inflammatory words, all right, to describe a very difficult situation that was up in the very royal at the time. All right.
I'm the one.
Oh no, it was a military dictatorship. They were just ruling by iron fist, and these people were just going about doing their business, and nothing was actually, they were just peace loving, regular people, and nothing. They weren't doing anything wrong.
Is that your attempt at a Southern accent, you son of a bitch?
No, that was my attempt at just mimicking you. All right, it has nothing to do with a Southern accent. I can't do a Southern accent to save my life, nor am I attempting to.
Oh God. Okay, so Pinoy says he doesn't know a lot of this because it wasn't taught in school. Yeah, well, that's kind of why we're doing this stream. That's why we have the Civil War series, is because I do want to delve into what the school doesn't fucking teach you. I mean, yeah, all they say is Lincoln was good, okay? Like, that's about it. Like, that's all they fucking cover when it comes to the Civil War.
That's all you learn because you weren't listening to class.
Well, I did skip.
I really can't say that because the classes that you went through and the classes I went through are completely different to begin with.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think I'm supposed to do a test today for school. Oh well. Anyway,
do you have a specific time that you got to do your test?
Oh no, I'm good. We're good to go.
Okay.
Okay. So, is everything people do just flying by the seat of their pants? I think it kind of is, especially Abraham Lincoln. I don't think he was prepared for what exactly was going to play out. He wasn't a career politician. He was a lawyer, and he wasn't necessarily ready for the moment in history that he was thrust upon, if you know what I mean.
Well, let's be perfectly frank. Neither was Jefferson Davis, and Jefferson Davis was a career politician. All right, I mean
that's a very good point.
Right,
Jefferson Davis did not know. No, Jefferson Davis fucked up a lot. He micromanaged the military affairs. He could not even manage Braxton Bragg and get him the fuck out. Like, I would have fired Braxton Bragg fucking in 1962. Like, fuck this motherfucker. But no. He just let his generals bicker and fight. Excuse me. He let his generals just bicker and fight and ruin their own cause. Especially when it comes to Braxton Bragg and Beauregard over in the Western Theater.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about those situations as we come up. I mean, you're a little bit too hard, considering the situation that they're dealing with. All right, you got to remember that his meaning Davis is trying to create a freaking nation at this point. Right, he's trying to create an entire governmental structure, and everything else. So things are not, in his favor, as far as what he's trying to do, etc. At least with Lincoln, all right. Once everything settled down, all right, at least the formalized structure had already existed, and he could rely upon using that formalized structure, all right. Jefferson Davis,
okay.
they were creating that and creating the dynamics of how. It's always great to say, like, this is what the rule says, right? But exactly how that's implemented is not always clear cut. It's not always, something that's you can see immediately. All right.
Well,
So
okay.
the situation.
If Abraham Lincoln knew what he was doing, the North would have won the war in '62. Okay.
Once again, was he the general in charge of the battlefield? All right.
He was the commander in chief, and he couldn't choose a good general to save his goddamn life.
No,
Grant just slid into the
generals that he has. He's choosing generals that he has. You don't go to war with the army you want. You go to the war with the army you have, especially when war is thrust upon you.
Okay, fair enough. But can we both agree that the South had the better generals? I mean, they really did.
The South had the better generals in the East. That's very true.
Yeah, well, I leave Braxton Bragg out of all these conversations. Like, fuck that motherfucker.
Braxton Bragg out of those conversations, but it still comes down to the fact that in the West, all right, you have two of the better, and for all intents and purposes, two of the best Union generals, and they beat everyone else.
Oh, you know what? Tiger Lily says in the chat that Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer without a degree. Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds like Lincoln's punk ass. The motherfucker probably lied about his law degree.
Because at that point in time, all you had to do was pass the bar exam, which he did without ever going through formal training. Something that's not easy to do. He cheated.
Oh, he cheated. No, I think you do have a point when you say I just hate Lincoln. Like I'm starting to see. I'm starting to see your point
when I say you just hate Lincoln.
Whatever, fuck him. And the horse he rode in on, son of a bitch. No. Okay, all right. We can expand a little bit beyond Fort Sumter if you would like to. Do you want to talk about Bull Run or Manassas, as I would call it?
Well, let's finish up what we were saying here. So basically, at this point, now the South has a choice. They can let things, but all the balls are in their court, and there's a number of options that they have. All right, as the supply ship gets closer, they can let the supply ship land and let
they can
the food land. All right, they can't.
Food? Oh, no. You keep bringing up motherfucking food, dude. No, there was guns in that motherfucker. There was fucking cannons in that motherfucker. Don't fuck with me. You know damn well that was a military supply ship carrying fucking armament. It was a military supply ship
that was going to deliver food because
they weren't. No, that's a bullshit cop-out. No.
Were they getting fed or weren't they?
Was there some potatoes in the motherfucker? Probably. But
the vast majority of that thing was not going to be freaking guns. In fact, even if there were quote unquote just cannons involved, without troops to man it, it was going to be immaterial. This was not a massive supply operation where they were going to land masses of numbers of troops, all right, to create a strong point or a campaign point. So the South had the option. Even if they delivered 20 more guns without the ammunition and supplies to actually do anything about that, which they didn't have, all right, how much more of a threat was it really going to be? It wasn't going to be any more of a threat than it was at that point. It would have offered nothing further from a military perspective. There was no reason to bring in extra freaking cannon. So that it wasn't political, in your imaginary mindset.
From a political perspective, you cannot allow that ship to resupply the fort.
Once again,
if you claim
territory. You can do that, and it doesn't necessarily change the situation on the ground. It doesn't change secession. It's not threatening secession. Secession is not under threat in any way, shape, or form just because these people got food and that the ship landed.
Okay.
It wasn't going to change that dynamic on the ground whatsoever.
What you're looking at, though, at the same time is Operation Anaconda, where they were shutting down all the shipping lanes and blockading the southern ports. That was an act of war itself.
That hadn't even been implemented yet.
It was in the process of being implemented at pretty much the same time.
It was when it was in the planning of the discussions, depending upon how things went. Yeah. That's normal in discussions when you talk about military operations.
Is a blockade an act of war? Yes or no?
I technically think that it's an operation short of an act of war, and it has been historically. Is it an aggressive action? Yes. Is it a provocative action, and can it lead to war? Yes, it can. All right, but it is an action short of war.
Interesting. I actually thought you would agree with me on this one, because I do believe a blockade is an act of war. Like if we did a blockade right now of fucking England, isn't that an act of war? Wouldn't they fucking fire upon us?
Were we at war with Cuba when we blockaded Cuba in '63?
Yes.
Or '62?
Yes, that was an act of war, in my opinion. Yes.
All right, so we were at war. We should have just gone in there and just finished the battle then, right?
Well, yeah, if you go to war, then you kill the motherfuckers. But yeah,
did we do that?
Okay, you have a point.
We came closer than people realized in certain regards, because the Russians did attempt to run the blockade. All right. In fact, we depth charged some of their subs and brought them to the surface. All right, but we weren't doing it to sink the sub.
Well, I actually didn't know that. Wow. I didn't know it escalated that much. Wow.
That crisis was a lot more severe than people realize. I mean, there was a number of things that could have happened during that time frame. So those subs were carrying nuclear weapons, and they had a nuclear torpedo, and it was very possible that they could have used it, and it came close.
But okay, so I do believe, though, that a blockade is an act of war, especially Operation Anaconda, because they literally starved the South out, and
the war was already on by then.
Yes,
the war was already on by then, so that is an immaterial aspect.
Okay, but you have, at the same time, you have this blockade operation, or at least it's on the table. We could agree on that much. And then you have the resupplying of Fort Sumter. In my opinion, man, I stand by it. You cannot allow the resupply if you're Jefferson Davis. You just can't fucking do it.
You can allow it, right? And what's more is that if you do allow it, you give yourself more time to sit up there and build up frickin' political support to let you go. He closed off any opportunity that they had for political support to letting secession to being legislatively, all right, removed from the United States. He closed that option. Now, it may not have made a difference. It's very true. We're playing kind of a what if game when we're talking about this, because we're saying, well, what if he would have done this, or what if we did that? But the difference is, at this point, is that's a demarcation line, all right? All options at that point mean if you fire, it's war. It's not war resupplying. It's not armed conflict during the resupply. It's armed conflict when the firing begins. That's armed conflict.
I would have made the same decision. I would have fired upon the ship. I would not have allowed the resupply.
I understand that you may have made the same decision, all right, and it may be that the same decision would get made again, all right, but that decision is the decision to start the Civil War.
War of Northern Aggression. Anyway,
it starts the Civil War, and it's not a war of Northern aggression. I keep going back to this.
It's not a civil war. They were not trying to take over D.C., sir.
No, you were trying to wreck the government. You were trying to wreck the government of the Union. Once again, you cannot. The reason that the South wanted to secede, all right, and what they were doing and what was dangerous about it is it threw away the power of the Constitution. All right, it says the Constitution can no longer be a ruling document. All right,
yeah, but they added
it out. If that's the case, all right, then you were destroying just by you leaving that way. All right, you were saying the Constitution is null and void whenever we decide. We're going to ignore it. It was back where you're going right back to the same situation that you had under the Articles of Confederation. All right.
Actually, no, the Articles of Confederation was actually supposed to be a perpetual union, which they killed when they created the Constitution.
We're talking about the reality of the Articles of Confederation, not what it was or what we wanted it to be.
We're not reading the document. We're not reading the document. Okay, I gotcha.
You can say that you're not reading the document, but you can't argue with what the document didn't allow and the reality of what was going on the ground. And it was creating an untenable, unworkable condition for the United States. The whole reason you have a constitution, a convention of states, or however you want to look at it, for the redress of this was because everybody recognized, all right, that the Articles of Confederation weren't working.
Well, did they call Thomas Jefferson? Because I think he might have disagreed. But anyway,
he could disagree all he freaking wants. All right. If he disagreed with it that much, then I guess then he should have just stayed out of politics after that and shouldn't have been the second president of the United States or the third president of the United States.
Fair enough. You got me there. God damn it. But you did say second, so fuck you.
I said I did correct myself. I did say second. I was wrong. I meant to say third. I apologize.
Well, but none of your business in the chat says the North was overreaching. The reason the South left. The South felt like the federal government was overstepping, becoming too powerful.
So we're worried about fifis now?
Well,
we're going by fifis?
Well, South Carolina was a little upset. I mean, they did have their feelings hurt.
Okay. Yes. Whether they felt something or were overreaching, felt this, felt that is immaterial to what the action of secession, the way that the South tried to do it, all right, brought about. This has been my biggest point. It wasn't that the southern states, there are ways to redress through the Constitution, all right, a state to say let us go. They have to create political will. They have to develop it. It would have been a possibility, and personally, I think it would have been a better possibility than many people believe. And the reason for that is this. As the abolitionist movement, all right, can gain power, and it did gain power in the North, many of them were looking at it as, why don't we just frickin' vote these people out? Why should we even deal with these? We don't want to be part of this. If they want to leave, why shouldn't we vote them out? And that easily could have happened.
Well, no,
that
and
was definitely a possibility. Now, would it have been instantaneous? No, it wouldn't have been "quote unquote" instantaneous. You'd have had to go through Congress. All right, Congress was working a bit more than what it does today, though. Right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right?
Yeah, they actually showed up. But no, we covered that before, though. It really boiled down to the fact that the states themselves didn't want to fucking face the issue, really. And it was a reactionary reflex when South Carolina left. And then that's all it was. It was Lincoln came to power, and South Carolina's immediate reaction was, fuck you, I'm taking my ball and going home. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, but you're not playing tiddlywinks, are you?
No, not with 600,000 lives.
Well, that's an after effect because nobody believed at that time. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people believed that the Civil War would be the way it was. One of the people, of course, who did believe it was going to be as horrendous as it was, all right, is somebody that you absolutely hate, and that's Sherman. Sherman was actually in Louisiana in 1860. All right, he was a teacher in one of the academies there.
Well, and Sherman can suck my fucking rebel dick. Fuck Sherman. like seriously, fuck that motherfucker. When I get to hell, I'm beating the fuck out of him.
You're assuming that you're making a number of assumptions, but we'll just continue on.
He's in hell. Don't fuck with me. He's in hell. God damn it. But no, go ahead, dude. I'm sorry.
But he was one of the ones that warned, saying, "Look, this affair, if it turns violent, is going to be long and bloody, and be prepared for it." And he tried to warn people, even when the first actions began to take place, as small little engagements began to take place of what was going to happen with it, and people thought he was insane. People literally thought that his belief of what the war was going to cost and how the war was going to go was going to be bloody, and how bloody it was. They thought he was absolutely insane. That was going to go.
He is insane, or he was insane. There's a class. No, there's a class of people in the South, men, women, and children, who need to be extinguished before we could ever have peace. Yeah, fuck you, Sherman. Fuck you.
He wasn't wrong. What was he wrong about that statement?
I'm unreconstructed till the day I die, motherfucker. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Oh, so you're going to put your hood on and go ride on out?
That's right, yeah. No, I already have my hood on. I came prepared. Sons of bitches. Oh, God. None Your Business, once again in the chat, says, most wars are over, Fifis, MC. Aren't they, actually, though? I mean, look at the Trojan War. Look at, All
right. Well, first of all, the Trojan War it comes down through mythology, so let's not include that. All right. And let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about modern age. Most of the modern wars were fought for not so much for fifis, although at that time you could say that was a transition period. But most wars are being fought for territory and supplies. All right. Not fifis. All right. As far as that goes, I mean, can you say that? Yeah, most wars are fifis. Yeah, you can. There is a point to be made with that. I'm not going to deny that. All right. Because to kill another human being is not as easy to do. All right. To bring about as people think.
I would never actually think that killing another human being is easy. Unlike Voice of One, I don't want to throw everybody into the goddamn oven. But, that being said, the Civil War, or the War of Northern Aggression, war between the states, however you want to fucking phrase it, it wasn't necessarily over fifis, in my opinion, though. I really don't think it was. I think it was over what exactly does the Constitution mean? And what exactly is the Union? And one side won, which I can't agree with, fuck them, but whatever, they won through force of arms, what they couldn't win politically. And that's really what the whole history of the South was.
You can say that they won, all right, politically, and because politically they were winning, that the other side decided to try force of arms to get it their way, and they lost again.
Do you think so? Because, yes. I mean, there is a literal quote where it says the South uses the Constitution like a shield. And that's exactly what the South was doing the whole time in the political discourse and in the fights that were going on. When you talk about,
they were using legalisms to prop up their way of life. Okay, that's fine.
Prop up their way of life. How dare they? How dare they actually enjoy their way of life and want to propagate it?
Well, once again, that way of life included slavery, dude. You can't forget that. You can't ignore that.
You can't ignore the fact that that's the way it was back then. Am I saying that I want to bring back slavery? No, I'm fucking not saying that, dude. But
what they were, when it comes right down to it, what they were trying to protect with their legalisms, all right, was slavery. Where their drawing line was, where they drew the line was slavery.
Once again, that's bullshit. You goddamn know it, because Abraham Lincoln said Abraham fucking Lincoln said that he would do a constitutional amendment to fucking keep slavery.
Whether you like it or not, Mad Dodge,
we would have slavery right now if Lincoln had his goddamn right.
On everything else, they were willing to compromise. On everything else, when push came to shove through legislation during that time frame, the one thing that they wouldn't compromise, right, was the continuation of slavery.
We covered this in a previous episode. It was because the balance was thrown off when they threw away the Mason-Dixon line.
Take a look at what they were doing, what they were willing
look
to
at
give
what
up,
Lincoln said. Look at the words of the man. Look at the words of the man. The man said that if it means saving the Union, I will keep slavery. The man stood up there and also said that the United States could back in 1837, all right, can't remain either free, half and half slave. It'll either become one or the other. So don't sit up there and try and say that just because frickin' Lincoln made this one statement, this proves the entire view of what was going on, especially when it comes down to all right, who went the South. It's many statements.
What?
And it's not just one statement; it's many statements. And the fact that he actually put together a constitutional amendment
in regards to at the time dealing with this situation as it existed.
But no, once again, None Your Business says the Civil War was not fought about slavery in America, only in the South. Yeah, I would like to bring up Delaware, motherfucker. Like, did we forget about that fucking state? Like,
and what was the slave population percentage-wise in Delaware?
Like 10%. It wasn't that high.
No, you're right on not being high. It was like a 0.2, 0.3%.
Oh, no, they at least had 10%. Don't fuck with me.
there was approximately, I think they said there was approximately 2,000 slaves.
Well, it's a small state. God damn it. Okay.
But that wasn't my point, my dog. My point isn't that. My point has to do with the fact that as you look at the time frames from 1840, 1830, 1840, 1850, what were they willing to compromise on and what weren't they willing to compromise on? They were always willing to compromise on taxes left and right. No, they compromised on taxes left and right. The one thing that they refused...
Is that why they nullified the fucking tariff of abominations or the moral tariff?
They fought it and went back and they redressed it. They were.
That's what Calhoun fucking railed about for 10 years.
I don't care what Calhoun was railing against at that specific point in time. It's immaterial to the overall picture of what the South refused to ever consider as a compromise. And the one thing that they never would compromise on, ever, all right, was slavery. You can argue about taxes going up, taxes going down. They would argue those points left and right. But the one thing that they never moved on, ever, was slavery. Ever.
Okay, so the South was so horribly fucking racist. Is that why the Indian Territory joined the Confederacy?
I'm trying to point out, all right, I'm trying to point out that the way of life that existed in the South couldn't exist without slavery. You cannot ignore that. When you talk about what they were doing and what they were shielding and why they were shielding these things, going through the court systems and going through the legislative process, all right, where they were constantly trying to stop it, their main point whether you like it or not, was a defense of slavery and their way of life.
Okay, I will agree with you when it comes to South Carolina, but when it comes to Virginia, I vehemently disagree, because Virginia did not leave the Union over slavery. They left the Union over 300,000 troops being called up and being ordered to march across their territory to
I'm sorry, but
attack
did they have
their
slaves?
own fucking...
Show me another state that didn't have slaves that stood there and did the same thing.
Ah, damn it, dude. It's like a one track fucking CD going on here, dude.
No, I'm giving you brought up this point. You're saying that this was the case. Well, then show me another state that was not fighting this. This is what I'm saying.
I would like to bring up Oregon. Okay, Oregon.
Right.
It didn't have slavery, but you know what? It also didn't have any black people allowed to live within the goddamn state.
I'm not saying that there wasn't. I'm not saying we're not arguing about racism. We're arguing about whether or not the issue was slavery, all right, for the South or not.
Well, no, if the North is just as racist as the South, then why exactly? I mean, why is slavery the fucking sticking point here? Especially when, once again, Abraham Lincoln fucking said that he would protect slavery for all eternity. We would have slavery right fucking now.
He was trying to. You're taking that out of context of the situation, and you know it. All right, he was trying to prevent the South from actually seceding and carrying through with it. He's trying to keep the Union together.
Exactly.
Let me finish. And so what he said was, and what he had always said was, is that where slavery is still in the South, he himself was not going to do anything to change that.
Yeah,
all right?
Okay.
The problem he had, because as soon as he said that, tons of Southerners were saying, "Oh, he's just a freaking liar."
Well, he is a liar. Yeah,
right?
Fuck
so don't
Lincoln,
come back and tell me that you were holding any kind of freaking. Oh no, but Lincoln was going to continue it, and the South knew that. Well, apparently that's not true.
No, they did, and your whole argument
they didn't, because they immediately said he was a liar and that they weren't going to believe him. So they didn't believe that.
If they really cared about slavery, then they would have stuck within the Union and created the 13th Amendment at that point, which would have been the pro-slavery amendment.
Let me tell you something right now. If they wanted to continue slavery, at least for a longer period of time, all right, they could have attempted to do that. But one thing was the writing was on the wall. Slavery at some point was going to go the way of the dodo. All right,
damn right.
That was
Even
going to
happen. Said that.
That was going to happen, and there were many in the South that were bound and determined not to let that actually happen.
Yeah, but not the leaders, not Jefferson Davis,
and they were the people of wealth and the power of the South.
No, you're telling me though that Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee were not pro-abolition. I would give you Exhibit A. The fact that Robert E. Lee literally said that slavery was going to fade out and should.
Well, we're not talking about Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was not a political player. Let's be perfectly frank here. So if you're dealing with a political situation, we'll talk about it from the politics. Now, if you're going to talk about Jefferson Davis, all right, Jefferson Davis sure as hell freaking wasn't willing to release his slaves that he was running on his plantation in Mississippi.
To be fair, Jefferson Davis pretty much adopted and I don't know what's the politically correct term here, an African American child. I don't know, but like he pretty much invited this child into his family and he freed him, or would have if he wasn't kidnapped where Richmond burned. But anyway, Vash, how's it going? You came in here to moderate, I take it. Like no.
I'm good. I'm eating my dinner and just listening to you guys rant.
Yeah, well, we're going to argue the Civil War forever because obviously MC is a dirty Yankee fucking traitor, and that's just the way it is.
No. I thought MC was a Jew.
Yeah, shalom, MC, shalom. No, actually, no, that's another good point. You want to talk about how racist the fucking Confederacy was?
I did.
You know the vice president.
Have
know
I
the
brought
vice
up
president.
racism at all?
You know the vice president of the Confederacy was a Jewish man. Just throwing that out there.
Oh shit!
Or
You're
no,
taking Patrick's
no,
little
no.
job.
No, that was the Secretary of the Treasury, not the Vice
Once
President.
again,
The Vice
who's
President
bringing up
was
racism?
you,
I'm not
because
bringing
you're a
up
dirty
racism.
fucking yank. No,
I'm not bringing up. I haven't brought up racism. I've repeatedly not brought up racism. All right, and you keep trying to bring it into that fact. Racism, we already know about it's a different time frame. It's a different existence, right? I'm not arguing the point of racism. That's not the point with this. My point is very simple, that the Southern way of life couldn't exist as they saw it, right, without slavery, period. Okay, and when I'm talking about the especially the money politicians, all right, the ones who had the landed wealth, their way of life could not continue to exist without slavery. It meant that their way of life was going to be forced to change. Now, the average Southerner, all right, this was their way of life. They didn't have any other marker or demarcation or anything else. And many of this, there were Southern abolitionists. There wasn't many because they got tarred and feathered and run out on rails. All right. In fact, there was many cases where the South would come across the North and burn freaking quote unquote before the war even started Yankee freaking abolition.
And before if anybody doesn't know, tar and feathering was sucked. It was hot tar. Like it was very painful. It was a very painful process. Just in case anybody didn't know.
I mean, it was. And it was one of the things that would happen. But we're not talking about, I'm not trying to describe that from that standpoint. We're talking about the South and how it conducted business even before it left. If you take a look at South Carolina and how it conducted business and what it would legislatively compromise on and what it wouldn't compromise on. All right. The one thing it would compromise on taxes, it would compromise on different things here and there. The one thing it never compromised on and refused to compromise on was slavery.
Didn't Eli Whitney being tricked into creating the cotton gin, didn't that actually help industrialize the agricultural society? And then,
well, it made profitable large plantations using a secondary cash crop. Up to that point, the big cash crop in the United States, all right, that needed plantation type of workload, all right, was tobacco. Tobacco, tobacco is very difficult, but where tobacco can grow is, it doesn't grow everywhere. Okay, you need certain climatic conditions, and which is why it grows in South Carolina, in many of the southern states. But you're not going to find tobacco basically growing in Massachusetts or in Illinois or Ohio or any of these other states.
Well, that's because Massachusetts sucks. Memes is from Massachusetts, so need I say more?
I'm going to take it out of memes now. Not that I'm adverse to doing that, but that's a separate issue. No, so what happened because of Eli Whitney is now cotton, which there's a larger area now that it can grow in. It can grow in a much more drier climate. All right, can now be utilized in large plantation type of fields. Okay, so from an agricultural, and of course, agriculture at that point is pretty much almost entirely manual labor. It's a matter of going out there, picking cotton. It's going out there, picking potatoes. There is none of the machines that we have today that we take for granted today in farming and mechanization. Although you do have an individual who was an escaped former slave named McCoy, who has begun the process of utilizing this with some of his technology.
I'm always on the side of the Hatfields myself, but
no. McCoy,
I know. Not that
McCoy. Different McCoy, not the Hatfield of McCoys.
But Penoid says, Matt, it's weird. Pennsylvania was successful and never had slavery. Lies, dude, lies. They have the Amish. That's totally slavery. Like,
the Amish are not slaves. You can't say that the Amish are slaves. But my point is still my point with all this is I'm trying to stay on focus here. Still comes down to the fact that you're dealing with a situation, all right, where slavery is part of the cultural aspect of the South. And yes, there were people in the South that didn't want that to change, especially the people that were the quote-unquote old money. Now, there's another cultural aspect of that, which is very reminiscent of the British, in that it was what creates a type of caste system or class system, which for the most part in the North never took place and never really came to the fore. And this is another thing that can't be ignored, right? Is you end up with a caste system.
well, I think I actually disagree with you a little bit there. I think the North did have a caste.
Disagree with me? No, not
yeah,
you.
I know, right? But I do think that the North had a caste system, and look at the Irish population of New York. Look at the 5 points. Look at health.
You had people where you had situation where you had people that had money at the beginning, right? Versus people that don't have money. You always end up with that. But it isn't the type of caste system that you're dealing with between a slave and a free man. It's not even close. All right.
Well,
and what's more is you don't have.
No, actually, no. I want to bring up the fact here, though. No, when you look at the Irish population in the North, they lived worse than the slave population in the South. Did they not?
Don't have landed gentry. In the South, you have landed gentry. And that is a social aspect that didn't exist in the North.
Yeah, but I still would like to bring up the fact that the Irish lived worse off than the Southern slave population
There are people that lived worse off in a lot of different time frames, all right, during different periods of time. What does that frickin' prove? It
proves that you did have a landed gentry in the North.
No, you did not have you did not have a landed gentry aristocracy type of a movement in the North. You did not.
What about the fucking Rothschilds and shit? I mean, come on now. I mean, you have aristocracy in the North.
Not like it is in the South. You don't. You don't have the same social dynamics that were in play. You don't.
All right, Vash. Vash, jump in here. You got to have something to say, unless you're still eating your fucking dinner.
Well, I mean, I'm done eating, but I personally think that if you look back during those times and look at it from a money standpoint, I mean, for one, yeah, they did treat the Irish like shit because like they have them for like 7 years and then they kill them right afterwards. Be like, now you're fucking free, but whereas the black people worked the rest of their life and, eventually would just die on the farm by that. It was, looking at it from an economic standpoint, it was easier to make money through slaves or slave labor. And I mean, we're still seeing that shit in China. Like, Walmart in China, we're still doing the same shit. It's just we don't talk about it as much.
Yeah, hush, hush, nudge, nudge. Yeah, no, I get your point.
Like another person I'd like to bring up is who's that guy in the 700 Club? That old man, Pat Robertson, I think his name is, or Rob Patterson. Either way, he's an old ass dude that's in the 700 Club, Christian evangelical type of deal, and he's one of those ones that'll pray with you and everything else for, if you throw him about $20 his way. This man has a diamond mine. He has a diamond mine that is in Africa that makes its money off of slave labor, but no one fucking talks about that.
All right. Does he own a diamond mine outright?
Yeah.
No. I can guarantee you there's no African nation that allows an American to own any business outright.
Okay, but you can't have some sort of puppet that does your business for you,
No,
and you've already
I have
bought
a
it.
feeling what you're looking at with somebody that may have freaking like a stock holding or something like that. All right, but you're conflating it, saying that he's personally responsible for the day-to-day operations of the mine.
Well, I mean, my question is if he's going to be all Christian, then why the hell does he have a fucking money in his fucking slave mine in the first place?
Once again, so what you do is you're going to sit up there and declare a moral standard, all right, and saying that he's not living up to his moral standard, a moral standard that you, by the way, don't even follow, all right, and you're trying to say, hey, you need to be held accountable to this? Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, what I'm saying is if you're going to preach one thing.
What's he preaching?
He's the fucking leader of the fucking 700 Club.
Okay, so what's he preaching? What's he preaching?
He's evangelical.
Okay, so he's evangelical Christian. What does that have to do with having stock in a diamond mine?
It's a bit morally twisted.
How do you say that it's morally twisted? Is he in charge of the day-to-day operations of that?
Is a corporate CEO, is the head of the corporation of Hardee's in charge of all of the things that they do?
Yeah, they actually are responsible for it. Are you saying that he's responsible? He's on the board that makes the decisions for the mine?
From what I see, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to see the data on that because I find that very hard to believe. All right, not saying that I'm a fan of Pat Robertson's because I'm not, but this is something the left has always tried to freaking do, and it drives me freaking absolutely batshit. Because
well, I mean, like if I'm corrected, the thing is if I am wrong, I am one of those people that I will say that I'm wrong. But I just find it kind of disgusting whenever it comes to like evangelicals. Oh, give me your money, give me your money. And then, you know, they turn around and they don't give two shits of what their followers are.
Well, if he has all this money that you're talking about, and he's got all this money, and they're saying, well, give money to this fund or that fund, and so forth, and he's not giving any money himself, then yeah, you could. Then that is a something that you probably are justifiable to call out. Right. If, however, all right, it's because he's got some kind of small stock operations within or stock holdings in a diamond mine somewhere in Africa, which I'm not sure how the African mines are working right now, especially because most of the diamond mines were in South Africa, and a lot of that was seized by the government. All right, and has been taken over. All right, so I don't even sure how that is even that may not be a relevant case in today for today's the way today's.
Well, what I'm saying is that slavery is still being still happens these days. Like whether it's
slavery is. Don't get me wrong. There are problems with still areas of slavery. But just because somebody is going to an industrial wage and you don't like the fact that their wages are lower than another person doesn't necessarily mean that they're slaves. Do they have a harder life than other people? Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's slavery. Though.
I'm a little pissed off. Bold Like a Leopard says, Civil War was Guns N' Roses' shittiest song. Fuck yourself,
Hey.
Yeah, I love that song.
Okay, Gunny Rose might be a dick, but they did some pretty good music.
No, Civil War is a damn good song. I don't need your Civil War, son of a bitch.
What's so civil about war anyways?
Yeah. No,
Matt really God seems to think that there should be something civil about it, but we'll worry about that at a different time.
Wait. Oh. During the Civil War, we had men dressing up as women and people dying of dysentery. How the hell is that civil? Like, there was a lot of fucking low shit that happened during the Civil War.
You have that happen in any war.
Well, yeah, but primarily, like, if I'm correct, statistically, we've lost more people during the Civil War than we did in, like, the wars that we've had in modern day.
That's
well,
true.
yeah. If you look at it, it was all American lives lost. So obviously, yeah, more Americans died in the War of Northern Aggression than
It wasn't a war of Northern Aggression. It was a civil war against a group of people who were trying to destroy the government.
No, you're full of shit. They did not try to fucking.
You were trying to destroy the government, and you failed. If you want to claim you're Southerners, that's what you did, and you lost.
God, I didn't know I was Robert E. Lee. I mean,
well, then don't sit up there and talk about you're Northern Yankee.
Well, you're from Arizona. I mean, does that make you a Yankee? It kind of makes you nothing, right?
I mean, wait a second, Arizona? Was that? I think that's above the Mason-Dixie. I'm not sure.
Arizona is not above the Mason-Dixon line, but it was the Arizona territory. It wasn't a
it was according to Louisiana people, like Tennessee are Yankees. So
well, you are.
No, I've actually had this argument with some people from Louisiana. They were like, "Oh, Tennessee, that's Yankees." I'm like, "How the fuck is that Yankee?"
Well, I mean, they're not wrong.
I'm not sure how they would claim that Tennessee was Yankees, unless they were.
Have you seen Nashville? Come on now.
Exactly.
they're all
I'm like, how the hell is we're from the country and we like it that way? How the hell is that Yankee?
I don't need Nashville brought back up again. Although I did try one of their Google clusters.
But no, okay, so Bold Like a Leopard just won't stop. That fucking song was garbage. Hanoi rocks. # real hair metal. Hair metal, are you talking like, fucking Poison or, Bon Jovi and shit? Like
they're talking about the ones that had like the videos where they were in a factory that literally produced nothing but sparks and, big fluffy like homoerotic fucking hair and built people.
Homoerotic hair?
Well, I mean, like they're all oiled up and they're all fucking like, trying to look like He-Man while they're fucking going on a guitar with sparks coming out and shit. I'm sorry, it's a little bit gay, and this is coming from a pansexual.
Oh wow, then it must be gay. God. And what is pansexual anyway? No, I digress.
The reason why I say I'm pansexual is because I get sick and tired of people going, so would you date somebody that was transitioning? And it's like, yes. Well, then you're not necessarily bi. And it's like, okay, what the fuck ever.
Traps are gay. Just saying.
The dick only makes it better, Matt Dodge.
No. I can't follow you down that path. I'm sorry.
Yes,
you're a damn degenerate. No. God damn it. No, Tiger Lily says you fuck pans. Yeah, is that what pansexual is?
Damn right I do. They chafe a little bit, but I do.
Well, as long as it's non-stick, right?
Yeah. No. What I do is I'm really hardcore into it. I do cast iron skillets.
Well, yeah, and you make sure you don't wash it because it leaves a flavor on there. But
no, you don't wash it. You just, you just leave it there. That's the secret to having some really good skillet recipes. Is you got to add that extra flavor. That's secret sauce.
I'm just wondering how the fuck did we devolve this bad? Like, God damn it, dude.
What I was saying is I can kind of agree with MC and the fact that yes, the South did try to kind of overthrow the government. They wanted a republic but the Civil War wasn't really about slavery. It was about money. I mean, now we look at it, we see it as some moral, deal, but it was about money.
No, it wasn't just about money. All right, when it comes right down to it, it comes down to a way of life and people not wanting to change their way of life more than money. Now you can say that's part of it.
Do you want to change your way of life? I mean, like, do you want to start allowing those kids to walk across your lawn? I don't think you do. So, I mean, what do you mean?
Am I willing to shoot them as they walk across the lawn? I thought about it, but I mean, that's not the point.
I've thought about it. Get the fuck off my lawn! No! I'm about to fucking pop a cat.
Running joke, folks, for people who don't know any better.
You fucking are Clint Eastwood from fucking Gran Torino, aren't you? Like, I fucking knew it.
He just kind of stares at him.
Yeah, fucking zipper head. Anyway.
I did love that movie, though.
That movie was good. Tiger Lily says Lincoln was pansexual. You know what? I can't argue with you. I bet you he was. Fucking faggot. Anyway, sorry, Vash. My bad.
No, I'm offended now. Actually, I stepped in some feelings, but I wiped that shit off. It's okay.
Yeah, you would, you fucking pansexual.
We're back to the fifis again? Is that what we're doing?
Yep. Well, that's what all wars are started over, is fifis, right?
Well, I've actually had someone try and argue that World War II was more of like two guys wanting one chick, basically, is what it boiled down to, and then it got blown out of fucking proportion. Well,
Eva Braun was kind of hot. I'd fuck her. Just saying.
You are insane.
You know, I was wondering what your reaction to that would be.
That Eva Braun was hot?
Yeah. You know, would you fuck it?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Let's play Smash or Pass here. So Eva Braun. Eva Braun, you'll pass.
Civil War.
Well, you know, never mind. I'm going to leave that alone.
So back to this whole thing. When it comes down to Fort Sumter, like I said, they had options. The options were on the southern side.
Dude, you're just mad that we fucking fired upon your shitty little fucking ship. Fuck that ship, motherfucker. Like, fuck them and the fucking horse they rode in on.
Okay, well, you started a war, and then you're upset that
once again, I started the war, yeah.
You just said your little ship.
Oh, fair enough.
If you're going to keep throwing me under the bus and tell me it's personal with me.
Well, I'm just wondering, am I Robert E. Lee or Jefferson Davis? I mean, I just want to know what part to play. So
you're gonna play all parts. You claim that you love both of them, that they're both freaking heroes in your mind.
Dude, I named my son Robert Edward Lee, and then my last name. So yeah,
that has nothing to do with what you said you were going to name. If you had another son, you'd name him Jefferson Davis.
Damn right.
See, so yeah, what difference does it make? It doesn't make who you have to represent. You got to represent them all.
Okay, as long as I'm not Braxton Bragg, I can't play that part.
I won't give you the title Braxton Bragg. At least not today.
But okay, all right. I gotta go real quick and change my daughter's diaper. You guys.
Wait, did you get permission to change that nappy?
Oh my God, is that a real thing? Like,
yes.
Seriously.
Yes, it is. You have to get permission to change that fucking nappy.
I can't stand the left anymore. Like, really, I'm done with their bullshit. Like, fuck you.
Yeah,
no, if you don't change the diaper, then you're a child abuser. you do change the diaper, then you're a weirdo. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
God damn it.
You have to, according to the new movement, you have to get permission from the baby to change their diaper.
Well, that goes back to their idea of, ask the students, oh, you got the classroom and you should be trying to get the students and get their information of how the classes should be run. No, the world doesn't work that way. Students are not going to school, all right, because they know anything. They're going to school because they don't know. And if they do know, then they shouldn't be in school to begin with.
Yep.
And if they don't want to know, you need to get rid of them out of the school. If that sounds too harsh for people, well, too bad.
You're hurting my fifis, MC.
Yeah, okay. People's fifis get hurt quite a bit, and they can be hurt a lot more than people, think can happen. There's a lot of bad things that happen in the world. People need to get used to it.
No, it's butterflies and rainbows. Everybody knows that. I can just color on my crayons all day long, and it'll be perfectly fine.
Well, that is one of the problems of people. They think that there's some magical elixir out there, and there's some magical situation where everything will be perfect and utopia will come into being, and if people were all thinking like we do, then everything would work fine. And it also goes down to all the way down to the point where if you have anarcho-capitalism, where if everyone just thought the same way, and we had the NAP, and I've tried to explain to people why the NAP will never work. Right? Why? Not that the concept of an NAP is anything wrong with it, but in reality, all right. And I've asked this question before. Now, Vash, were you ever in the military?
Yes. I tried to go in. I was medically discharged before I finished basic training.
Okay.
But yes, I do consider myself a fan of the military.
No, that's fine. That's not my point. My question is, and I'm curious to see what they've done with you, because you're, I suspect, much younger than I am. All right. What's the difference between a warrior and a soldier?
A soldier, I'm guessing, fights for a cause or for their country. And a warrior pretty much just fights for whoever the hell or whatever the hell they want, from what I notice.
Okay. That's not exactly accurate. All right. The difference between a soldier and a warrior is the difference between the Roman army, right, and the German barbarians. And what I mean by that is a soldier is going to be trained in arms. He may not be an expert in the weapons that he has, right? But he's trained in arms and works together as a unit. They work under a unit. They have a hierarchy that they follow. Okay. Warriors are individuals. Generally, they are personally very well trained in arms, and in some cases, better trained on an individual level, all right? But because that they're individuals, when they go into like a combat situation, they fight as individuals. They don't fight as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why the Romans were able to, a small Roman legion, all right, that's outnumbered 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, is actually able to beat barbarians, simply because the barbarians are fighting as individuals and not functioning as a unit. And as a result of the discipline, the unit discipline, and the unit cohesion, that they're able to defeat things. So you end up in a situation why am I bringing this up? I'm trying to bring this up so that people understand, if you go to a type of environment where you have very small little subsets where everyone is kind of on their own, and you have this thing called the NAP because it's anarcho-capitalist, and we're all getting along. All it takes to defeat all those people.
No, fuck you. No, I got back, and all I heard was the fucking non-aggression principle. Fuck you, dude. Like, God damn it.
Well, if that's all you heard, then you weren't freaking listening.
No, I wasn't. I was busy, like I said.
I'll
I
ask
just
you
got
the same
back
question that I just asked Bash. Okay. What's the difference between a soldier and a warrior?
one eats the fucking heart of their enemy.
I thought one of them was like big and muscular and has like a huge sword. Oh wait, no, wait, that's barbarian. That's Conan. My bad.
Well, you could say Conan was a warrior. You can't say that Conan was ever a soldier, though. He didn't function in a unit. He was by himself. Now, you could say that he was a part of an army because he was a tank unto himself. If you want to look at it from that perspective. But no,
Okay,
warrior, for all purposes, a warrior is an individual. A soldier is a member of a unit.
Oh, okay. I kind of get where you're going with that differentiality. Tiger Lily in the chat says, warriors follow their own path. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, reading the chat here.
That's a part of it, right? But and I'm going to try and bring this back around to the Civil War in a lot of cases. One of the things that you have in the Civil War is you have at the start of the Civil War, all right. One of the things that the North was unprepared for is the North does not have a regulated militia system, right? And we can,
and the South did.
Well, the South did. The South did, and they had been drilling it excessively, especially after you end up with John Brown. All right, during the John Brown raid, the South increased its militia and started training the militia system much more heavily, whereas the North they didn't do anything. They didn't encourage it or anything else. So you have the Southerners being drilled as soldiers, all right, immediately, all right, prior to the Civil War even breaking out, which is for like 1959, I think, is when John Brown was executed. Right, so you have the entire 1859. You're right. I'm sorry, 1859. I misspoke. And then you end up with for all of 1859 to all the way through 1860, you have Southern groups drilling militias. Right, state militias have formed, and they're already getting into a regimented mindset. They're already receiving military and unit discipline. When the Civil War does break out, not only do the majority of the officers, all right, leave the Federal Army and join the Southern Army, but you also have the aspect that there was no militia system. So the call up of troops, okay, for the North versus the call up for the troops in the South has a different regimented effect. The South is much better prepared from that kind of a military standpoint, right, than the North is overall.
Well, absolutely. And if you look at the defection of all the fucking people from West Point, pretty much, and okay, hashtag not all, but a good majority of them joined the Southern Confederacy. We both know that. Come on.
A significant majority, yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't say a larger majority, but it's a significant majority. The South did always have a martial tradition, which of course was another reason that led to a better disciplined military very quickly overall than it was, especially in the Army of the Potomac. One of the things is for the Army of the Potomac, all right, if you take a look at the first battle of Bull Run, right, there's the general call up.
Manassas.
Whatever.
Yeah, just saying.
You have the general call up on both sides. All right. Now, the call up is the troops are forming. A large contingent of them are forming in D.C. Lincoln is harassing his generals to say, "Look, you've got the men. It's time to go to battle. Use them. We can't just have them sitting around just D.C."
Well, real quick though, a good quote that I do actually like by Abraham Lincoln is, "Yeah, our troops are green, but so are theirs. March your ass down there." Yeah, fair enough. Like, you had a goddamn point there.
Well, yes and no. Remember, the troops were green, but there was a better disciplined military, all right, in the South. They weren't. It wasn't. You weren't starting the same way. This is an operational point for the Battle of Manassas. Now, initially, as one of the things that as the Battle of Manassas takes place, during the first part of the battle, the first thing that happens is the Southerners are getting routed left and right. All right, up to the point where they hit.
There stands Thomas Jackson like a stone wall. That's the point of the battle turn.
But what's happening at this point is the Union generals have lost total control of the battlefield. Okay, the wings, yes, are having success. They're driving the Southern forces back. They're being rolled up. In the South, you have a stubborn defense by Stonewall Jackson, all right, and his troops, all right, his Virginians, but in order to have won the battlefield at that point, the Union generals needed to coordinate and then focus on the strong point and eliminate it. Instead, however, it's chaos on the battlefield. The Union troops are actually already at the point where they're gleaning. All right, if anybody knows what gleaning is, all right, trying to get souvenirs for themselves from dropped rifles and different souvenirs that they're finding on the battlefield. They're not even prepared for, I believe it was Beauregard's counterattack that has happened. Now, Beauregard, all right, who was ordered to basically, defend this, has an advantage in that he's pulling up troops. All right, and he also knew long before the Union even started to march, all right, that the Union was going to march on Manassas, all right, not the least of
and they were bringing troops in from Harper's Ferry, and
they were able to bring in troops by rail very quickly to stem the flow. And when the counterattack happens, all right, because these units are not in any kind of disciplined formation or anything else, they just absolutely collapse. Now, this shows you also a point where as soon as that began, all right, Stonewall Jackson immediately reuses this time to go on the attack as well. He sees the attack change. He immediately orders his troops to go into attack, and his troops were freaking dead ass tired.
Well, yeah, he ran 50 miles and fucking they ran their asses off to get there. I don't think it was necessarily 50 miles, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It's almost like the Union attack sputtered out, kind of like Shiloh did 2 years, in the future, from where we're talking about. Where the South had the route. Okay, a year. But, the South had the route in Shiloh, and it just puttered out. They lost daylight, and they couldn't finish the goddamn job. And Sherman turned around the next day, and Grant, and, fucked us over.
The floor with them?
Yeah. There's no nice way to put it. Shiloh was bad. Day 2 was not good. It's kind of like when I watched the movie Gettysburg, I turn it off before, Pickett's charge. I don't want to relive that.
Well, we'll talk about the Battle of Gettysburg when it comes to that. So now another aspect that people don't know about during the Battle of Manassas, Battle of Bull's Run, is this takes place approximately 25 miles away from D.C. And this is
actually right on the border, right? That's on the border of Virginia, and
this is going to be the first big battlefield, the first big battle of the Civil War. And people are thinking this is going to be the only big battle of the Civil War. They're thinking people are of the opinion at this point, thinking, well, once this battle is over, not even realizing what a battle is like. All right, once this battle is over, all right, that it's going to settle the matter.
Well, no, MC, I think we're totally missing out by not bringing up the fact that the people from D.C. were fucking having a picnic.
I was getting to that point. I am bringing that point up. You're correct. The people, the politicians, all right, notice these politicians are not putting themselves on the freaking battlefield. No, some of them are older, so it's understandable. But the politicians think that this is a freaking great, grand, glorious thing. They're going to see this glorious march, and so they are actually driving in carriages with their wives and their mistresses, if for lack of a better term, and are going to have a picnic and a day outing to watch the battle. Now think about what this is, and think about how different that is today. If you know a major battle is going to take place, are you going to go out there and go, here, let's go watch people die?
No, I'm getting my fucking family the fuck up out of there. Yeah, I'm not going to go picnic and have a roast beef sandwich and watch the battle.
How mentally unprepared the nation as a whole was as to what they were thinking battle was and what it was going to become. And when the rout begins, all right, these untrained, like I said, the Union troops were not trained. They were not an army for all intents and purposes. They didn't train, they didn't drill correctly, they weren't prepared, they were not an army. And there were just a bunch of people that were fighting. When the rout begins, all right, what they called the Great Skedaddle, the roads become so populated with the carriages of these onlookers that came out to watch this glorious battle that troops are, and it's raining during this time frame. All right, so this isn't the best weather to be trying to deal with to begin with, and it's just horrible conditions. Troops, the roads are clogged. It's a organizational absolute mess. People are flowing. They don't know what. Even if you had some kind of idea that you were part of a unit, you didn't even know where your unit was, who was in charge of your unit, or anything.
Yeah, but I think you're even understating it. How much of a clusterfuck this battle really fucking was. You had crowded fucking muddy ass roads and troops from the Union literally throwing their guns down and running as fast as they goddamn can. Like, they're not looking back. They ran all the way to DC, dude. Like the motherfuckers bounced. Like, they're fucking out of here. Like,
right. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was a mess. And so what's the result? Everyone goes, okay, it was a great battle. But then all that does is call for more troops to be called up and for it to begin again. Now, at this point in time, Lincoln does one good thing in a certain regard, and that is he realizes that untrained troops aren't gonna cut it, and so he then puts in.
How long did it take McClellan to actually do another advance? It took what, a month or two?
Well,
after.
No. McClellan takes over, and the first thing he starts to do is he starts to institute a regimented training program to turn these people from warriors or just a bunch of collective individuals into actual soldiers. And he's very effective at this. Actually, he is a great training soldier. But during this time frame,
McClellan was good at training his troops, but he wasn't good at leading his troops.
He was not good at leading an army. He was good at leading a unit, smaller units, but not an army. He could have probably been maybe a corps commander, but really he'd have been better off as a regimental commander or division commander.
Do you think that McClellan was a Southern sympathizer? Because I've heard that thrown at him quite a few times.
A Southern sympathizer? Okay. Like many of the people on both sides, all right, there was an element of, I don't like the fact that I'm actually taking arms against people that I know on the other side. Okay, I would never have called him a Southern sympathizer, all right, but at the same time, there were people and there were misgivings about how they were having to deal with what they were doing. Well, you didn't like the fact that people that you knew you were killing on a battlefield.
Well, no, and you served with these people either in West Point or in the Mexican American War.
Right.
You actually served next to these. Right. Yeah, you served next to these people, and I hear McClellan mainly called the Southern sympathizer for the simple fact that he ran against Lincoln in the fucking election of '64.
Right,
So
but that's later on. We can get to that. But one of the things that's happened here that's made a major change is Winfield Scott has retired. And instead of actually replacing him, what Lincoln does is says, okay, well, I'll just let McClellan have all this because McClellan seems to knows what he's doing. And what you basically did at this point is you took McClellan, who is in charge of an army, but you're also trying to get him to work on an overall structure of the war. All right. And he basically begins to falter and fail along those lines.
Well, they did call him the young Napoleon, did they not?
Right,
and
because he liked that name. He was an arrogant ass. Don't get me wrong. He had issues.
Well, no, and I'm just wondering, how did he ever earn that fucking name? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so Robert E. Lee for a while was called Granny Lee. Why? Because he built up the defenses around Richmond and actually gave a fuck about, a defensive fucking line. They called him Granny Lee.
Why did they call him the little Napoleon? Because he wandered around dressing nice. He was also very short. Right, he was only like 5'4". Right, so he liked the fact 5'4", 5'6". He wasn't a very tall individual, so he liked the comparison, and he had the same kind of arrogance. And in fact, that arrogance is something that Lincoln noted several times. And he said, "Look," he said, "one of the risks of giving you all this power is that you can become a dictator, but you can only become a dictator if you're successful and you save the Unions. Therefore, I'm willing to risk it."
Oh no, actually, didn't McClellan actually write his wife talking about the dictator statement?
Oh, he constantly was writing disparaging comments about Lincoln. He hated Lincoln. He talked bad about him behind his back. He called him an ape. He called the entire cabinet a bunch of buffoons.
He does look like an ape. But God damn it. No, that's one thing me and him, McClellan would have in common. Like maybe McClellan
you're just about as arrogant and definitely about as stupid as he was too.
Oh, it's like that. Damn. I thought we were playing nice today, MC.
You're gonna make a comment like that? You think you're playing nice?
Jesus Christ. All right, what's going on in the chat? Forgotten Gunslingers here. How's it going, buddy? Bolt Like a Leopard says, Mad Dodge Productions, you can't beat my arguments, can ya? Guns N' Roses is badass. Fuck you. Civil War is a good song. And I'm busy arguing with MC. So, yeah, I can't multitask. My bad.
No, but McClellan begins the process of forming the Army of the Potomac, and also he's now in charge of how they're going to work out, like you said, the Anaconda Plan and etc. Right, so all this begins to form it. Right now, in the West, it's a different situation. All right, in the West, there's a series of battles. Fort Donelson falls to Grant, right? As Grant begins his campaign. Now, Grant's commander, overall commander at this point, is a man named Halleck, and you're going to
and Grant's a cunt. I just want that known. Grant is a goddamn
Grant
cunt.
is winning and whipping.
And he's a butcher.
Whipping the Southerners, and actually Robert E. Lee.
No.
Actually, Robert E. Lee castigated his own troops for making that claim. But we'll get to that as well.
I'm just saying, Grant's a cunt. That's all I'm saying.
Grant has taken Fort Donelson. He is a person of constant movement and maneuver.
Okay, maybe he took Fort Donelson. Maybe he took Fort Donelson, but he couldn't take Vicksburg for what, 3 goddamn years? The motherfucker tried to flood the whole area.
Hold on, before you get to there, the reason he couldn't take Vicksburg, had nothing to do with him, and it wasn't 3 years like you're trying to say. All right, it was only a few months, and it was not 2.5, and it wasn't.
It took him 4 different campaigns to take Vicksburg.
Yeah, and those 4 campaigns were within a 4-month period, and then you had a 3-month siege. So don't say that he was ineffective, because it's not accurate.
He's a cunt. Fuck him. That's all I got. Fuck
and he beat Prentice all the way back into there.
You know what? Richmond is a hard road to travel, motherfucker.
Yeah, so not from the south it wasn't. But we won't worry about that.
Well, no, and you burnt the city down, just like you burnt Atlanta, just like you fucking, burnt everything.
I'm sorry, but the Union did not burn Richmond.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
Oh.
Richmond was burned by your Confederates as they were fleeing.
Okay.
You burned
down
Richmond to the ground, especially when it hit the freaking supply depot, and almost with enough explosives to be like a low-yield nuclear weapon.
Well, we burnt some gunpowder, all right?
Some gunpowder?
Just a little bit. We were trying to have
some gunpowder? And we're getting ahead of the game. That's years down the road yet.
MC, listen. All they did was they were just trying to light off some fireworks. That's all it was.
One big freaking kaboom. Just a small little firework.
Well, no, absolutely.
Earth-shattering kaboom.
The city shattering at any rate.
Well, no, I'm having a good time. I don't actually want to end it yet, but where exactly do you want to stop on this, MC? Do you want to keep talking about Bull Run or Manassas, what have you?
No, I think we need to revisit Bull Run in a little bit more in depth, and then we need to shift to the west. And talk about what's happening in the west and what Grant is doing. All right, you also can't ignore the fact that Halleck is involved in this, and Halleck is one of the people who creates and causes an extension of the war. The war lasted a lot longer because of Halleck than almost any other single individual.
Well, no, and I would also like to talk about how much of a cunt not Sherman, because I already talked about Sherman. Sheridan's a fucking cunt too. Fuck that motherfucker. But where exactly do you want to go next? So everybody knows. You want to go to the Western Theater. So
we're going to talk a little bit more about Bull Run, just as a touch off as far as what the effects are, if you want, more politically, because the political situation is also interesting, which you should have brought up in the South as well, right? That creates a different dynamic within the southern sphere as well.
Well,
right?
absolutely. Actually, the South, after the first Battle of Manassas, was overjoyed. They really thought that they fucking had this shit. You know what I mean?
Right. And so we need to go into that aspect of it and more into how the coalition, how this Confederacy is coalescing now in a government, because their government begins to coalesce at this point as well, and the dynamics that are going on as with that you need to bring up, especially the what Davis is now trying to do, how successful he is in certain regards and how unsuccessful he is in other regards.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. Do you guys just want to bullshit for a little bit? Maybe we'll throw the Hangout link out and see if anybody wants to join us. That might be fun.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go, Mad Dog. So.
Oh, god damn it. You fucking Yankee.
My eldest daughter just came in, sorry. So she has I've got to talk to her about something.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, MC. I think, Vash, if you're going to stick around, I think I will throw the Hangout link out and see if anybody wants to join us. Are you good for a little while?
If I go for a little bit, I might come back if you're still going. So.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping watch of the Deviant stream because I'm also a part of them too. So,
Okay, so
I mean, so far I haven't even seen them show up in their VC. So, I'm okay.
okay, cool. I sent out the hangout link. We'll move on from the Civil War because, well, do you even know anything about history? I'm just
I don't
kidding.
know nothing. I don't know nothing. That's why I watch your stream.
Well, no, let's talk about, what's going on in the modern era. Look at Portland and Antifa and that shit show.
Oh, the Oregon Antifa bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got ran the fuck out. And they didn't want to step up against fucking, you know what's really funny? They wanted to wear masks and shit, but they didn't want to step up to Anonymous. I wonder why.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot.
Well,
I know no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. I just had to finish it.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that.
like whenever I saw that they were trying to do their riot on the 4th of November, and they did it specifically to try and fuck with Anonymous.
Well, they're cunts.
Well, then Anonymous was like, we have ourselves that are just waiting for you to do your protest. So you just go ahead and do it. And they were pretty much just ran out. It was nice.
And I don't necessarily understand the big hoopla with Portland yesterday. I mean, what exactly are they even protesting? Just Donald Trump? I mean, that doesn't make much sense.
Okay. You see how Patrick Little wants to name the Jew?
Yeah, god damn it. We're never going to stop talking about this motherfucker, are we?
Oh, no. This guy has become a meme for me. Like, anytime that I hear somebody say name the Jew, I'm just like, yep.
Yeah,
there we go.
Good old Patrick. Oh, shut up, Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, go have a beer. He's doing roughly the same thing that Antifa is trying to do. Like, Antifa's like, name the Nazi, though.
You know what? That's a really good point. And do you think it's an equal and opposite reaction politically? I mean, the rise of Antifa, the rise of these far right, alt-right, if you want to go that route, fucking groups. Is that just an equal reaction from each other? Or is shit going to get really fucking bad? I mean, sooner or later, these fights out in the streets of Portland are going to spread to Eugene and then Springfield and then where I fucking live. I don't necessarily want to put up with this bullshit. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, for me, it's like, okay, I was all for the Million Mask March. I was all for Anonymous and what they do. I'm a huge advocate for what they're trying to do, and I'm also a big fan of Edward Snowden. Like, stuff like that, I believe we should have protests about. We should have, we should have some fucking awareness to it. Which is the reason why I get pissed off whenever people call Snowden a traitor, because he wasn't.
You should be happy that MC left, because he actually hates Edward Snowden. And
the reason why I say that he wasn't a traitor is because from the story that I got, he was offered a seat to this deal that could, like, literally they were giving him the keys to regulate the internet, basically.
Yeah, and he was what, a fucking what do they call it? Where you're not even really hired by the company, right? They don't even take you're a contractor. Yeah. Like, that's all he was a fucking independent contractor, and they gave him that much power. That's pretty ridiculous, in my opinion. Especially if you're going to be spying on motherfuckers. Maybe you shouldn't trust independent contractors. You know what I'm saying? Like, not necessarily the best idea.
Like, for me, it was, like, he basically, they were like, okay, we're going to have you control all of this. Now, keep in mind, he knew more classified information than the president, arguably.
Yeah.
Like there are some things that are even classified, even being a president.
Well, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's on a need to know basis. You know, that's why we talk about the deep state. That is a real fucking thing. Speaking of that, do you think QAnon is a real thing? Do you think that person actually knows some shit and they're spreading it, or do you think it's all bullshit?
Oh, QAnon. I believe that I'm not sure whether to say that it's a honeypot or a like I'm saying like elaborate like honeypot, like as in like it's a long game entrapment type thing. But or if this person is something to like actually see that, you know, they are for the people and they were in these high areas. To me, it could either be another person that is against the main stakes government and has had some like if Bohemian Grove existed, then this guy has got to be a part of it for the information that he knows.
Well, I would argue that Bohemian Grove does exist, i.e., Alex Jones actually showing us footage of it. So
yeah, but I'm meaning what I'm meaning is like the over satirical deal that he does of Bohemian Grove. If what that is, like, if there is that type of group that's running it, then I believe QAnon has infiltrated that group somehow.
you know, that's a really good point, actually. And like, you know, the whole topic of today was the Civil War. Don't you think the money fucking factor is really what's going on even today? When you look at fucking Bohemian Grove, you look at you know, the Georgia Guidestones. What the fuck's up with that shit, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It seems like the moneyed powers are really what's pulling the strings here.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I went on that big old long spiel, and you guys go, eh? Like,
Well, I
God
mean,
damn
like,
it, Matt.
for me, it's like I've looked into QAnon, and I have, and whenever I say I look into something, I really do dig pretty deep in trying to figure out what the hell it is. And I gotta say that there are some predictions that he has that's correct, and then I think that there might be some force that's moving against him that might skew his predictions. What I'm thinking that he's doing is the same thing that I think Anonymous does in the way that they do their projects. Like if whenever Anonymous announces onto a video that they are doing something or they are working on doing it, more than likely they've already done it. Like whenever they had said, "Oh yeah, well, we are." Like if they're going to make threats, then they've already got the things in play to make the threat. You know what I mean? Like they've already got it there. Otherwise, they won't make the threat. You know?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I tend to agree with you.
So like if QAnon is saying, like one of the ones that he had said was, I think it was like what 50,000 people will be prosecuted or something like that, or was it 20,000? Either way, he said a large number and he said a date. Now what he is saying is that he's already got this in the process, and that from what he sees that this many people are going to be prosecuted over it. The thing is though is there is a way to, like, there are people that are moving against what he's doing, I think, and because they're moving against what he's doing, it's skewing some of his predictions off pattern. But I believe that this QAnon is not just one person, but a group.
You know what? That's actually a good point. I didn't think about that. It probably isn't just one person. I think you actually are right on that one. I think it is a group.
Now, QAnon might be one person, him or herself. I can't necessarily. I'm going to just say QAnon is a guy, just to make it easy. I don't know if he is a guy or if he isn't. I just find it a little bit easier to give him a pronoun, you know. But or they, because it can be multiple people. But there was a lot. I believe that this has a lot to do with how Anonymous was infiltrated. There were a lot of FBI and CIA things that were claiming to be anonymous, but actually weren't, and were recruiting people under the guise of anonymous.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, there was a lot of fake shit going around when it came to Anonymous. And Anonymous is a loosely organized group. They don't necessarily talk to each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. They exactly that, a loosely organized group. Once again, Tiger Lily in the chat says, "Do you guys like Trey Gowdy?" What do you think about Trey Gowdy?
Trey Gowdy. Gonna have to remind me who that is. It's not ringing a bell.
God damn it. I'm getting in trouble. I ate my wife's Reese's last night and I forgot about it. She's like, "You're eating my candy." I'm like, "I didn't eat your candy." She's like, "My Reese's?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Okay." Like, you got me there.
Yeah, I see a picture of him now. I'm not really completely sure. I've seen his face more than a few times. Let's see here. Let's just go ahead and I don't necessarily want to do Wikipedia. Let's look at a decent. Oh, there we go. Gowdy says FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do in the Russia investigation. House Oversight Committee. Okay, so the Russian interference in 2016 election. That's what he's talking about. And possible connections with the Trump campaign.
Oh, of course, you know, the Russians did it. Jacob, what's up, dude? So Antifa did clash with Patriot Prayer, yet still dispersed when police got involved. LOL, seriously, if these pansies even hearing the single loudest thing, they run like roaches. Yeah, they are a bunch of bitches, aren't they?
Like, oh yeah, like if you were to look at my Lancet lobby, I actually have a video of us taking the piss out of Antifa. I'm not sure if you were on that one, were you? I don't know, but we went through like a large portion of their videos, and the thing is whenever I do Lancet lobby, I try and really go in depth, like to what is and what isn't effective. Why? What is your argument? What are you trying to convey? Like whenever my most recent one was the war on drugs and the anti-drug ads. But we did cover a lot of Antifa videos, and I gotta say, I am glad that they are not organized.
Well, who is more organized, the stupid ass alt right or Antifa? I mean, they're both a bunch of fucking morons, in my opinion.
Well, yes, I would be inclined to agree with you, but at the same time, we have to identify and separate which ones are actually alt right and which ones are just anti-identity and being pointed at as alt right. Which is the reason why I was saying about how Patrick Little, his views. Could, like, what I'm saying is the media could have easily skewed him as that. That's the reason why I was like, okay, let's give this guy a fair shake. Hold on, I named the Jew. Okay, never mind. He is a Nazi.
Yeah, no, and dude, I'm still getting shitty fucking comments on that video, and it's like I could not have thrown this guy a softer fucking ball if I tried. Like, come on, dude.
All we did was just say, what the hell are you talking about? And then he decides to yell out about fucking some people with a shirt on that decided to have a gun pointed at a fucking kid that wasn't even born yet.
A pregnant woman, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I mean, okay, we literally have leaks of us beheading Bin Laden. Or not Bin Laden, but we have leaks of the beheading of fucking Saddam Hussein. We have leaks of fucking multiple shit that our army has done. Are you going to go against the U.S. forces, Patrick Little? Because let me tell you something. Your white supremacist people, a lot of those people are fucking veterans. So you want to turn against them?
Oh, that's a fair point. But no. Okay. Dude, really, I think the fact remains, I'm mad that libertarians get thrown into the alt-right category. Yes. And they do all the goddamn time. And no, I'm not Patrick, yo. Like, I'm not trying to name the Jew. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you've already got a Jew. It's MC. We already got this.
Well, no, and like, I happen to have some Jewish friends, you know, bold like a leopard. I'm looking at you, buddy. Even though you hate Guns and Roses, I disagree with you on that.
Also, to any of the rich Jews, if you support our content, please be sure to donate to Mad Libertarian and Mad Dodge Productions.
Yeah, damn right. Matter of fact, I have a Patreon.
And yes, subscribe to his Patreon.
But no, let's check out the chat. Jacob says Patrick probably had good points to make, but he seems to have trouble forming them properly.
Tiger,
I know. Oh no, shit! Do I have to check my Streamlabs?
Yeah, you got to pay more attention to that, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now.
If you want, I can teach you how to use widgets on the OBS.
Well, OBS is a pain in the ass.
Oh, yes, it is. It is. Very much so.
What is up, Forgotten Gunslinger, you fucking Mick motherfucker? Like,
I don't know. What's up, you fucking Jew? What's up with you?
Oh, we were talking about Antifa and how we are all the Jewish.
Antifa, Yeah, it figures. I thought I knew it.
You remember Antifa, don't you? All those videos that we got to watch painfully.
Okay, so we're gonna go on an angry rant. All right.
Hey, how about that? No, actually, I got a better one. How about that Antifa boot camp?
Oh, you mean the
By the way, Gunslinger. In case anybody that's just joining in, he's my co-host on Lancet Lobby and my other stuff.
You mean those fucking twigs who thought they knew how to fight?
Yeah, they were teaching and arming and fellow Antifa members. Mad Dog.
Yeah, they were teaching them how to get their ass.
Well, no, real quick, Tiger Lily, $5 donation, but you didn't write anything for me to say. So, yeah, thank you very much for the donation. But damn it, I thought there would be something for me to fucking say.
But yeah, Antifa can eat every last inch of every last piece of shit on this fucking earth. The
Well,
fucking party.
How many Antifa people are in Portland? Is it half the fucking city? I mean, really?
I don't know. All I know is let them try some of that shit in Oklahoma. It'd be bodies dropping.
Well, they don't use weapons, guys. They don't use weapons.
We do.
No. Don't use weapons against them. Use a potato gun.
Nah, fuck that. I want to use a fucking 40.
Oh, come on. It'd be more fun to do a potato gun.
Nah, I want a fucking 40
Having
millimeter
some
grenade launcher
pansy
and a
ass
couple of
dude
hornets
trying to
nests.
some pansy ass dude trying to run up to you with a bike lock while you're shooting a potato that's going about 300 fucking feet per second. Hell yeah.
Nah, I'd rather use a fucking 40 millimeter grenade launcher with a couple of hornets nests. Which, if you don't know,
I would use tear gas.
which if you don't know, a hornet's nest, there are two versions of it. One of them shoots 9 rounds of 22 millimeter, 22 long rifle, and the other shoots 18 rounds of 22 long rifle.
Nice. But yeah, Mad Dodge, we do know about Antifa. We really dug into them. And
I think he's hitting the bong.
nah, he's probably got some family stuff to do. But yeah, we did cover a lot of Antifa. We did cover a lot of their argument. And I gotta say, there wasn't an argument to be had.
I was about to say, argument? What argument?
Well, we're just like yesterday. We are looking into their argument. We are looking into what they have and what their opinion is. It just so happens that they don't have a very good one.
I'm just looking for the best way to kill them.
Well, no, and Jacob in the chat says, pretty sure Antifa had others come from out of Portland and the state of Oregon. Yeah, I agree. I think they did fucking go for out of state, and that's how they had a lot of them come in. So, I mean, I'm disagreeing. Because, no, what white supremacists was really there? What were they fucking protesting? You know, like, the shit's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about Antifa, to be honest.
I do. They're a bunch of fuckwits and need their asses whooped.
God damn it. Okay, Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily sent another $5. Holy shit. Thank you very much. And she says, Lincoln sucks donkey dick. I agree with you. I totally agree.
That's beautiful.
I'm telling you, she is my new favorite person.
Oh, Tiger Lily, you beautiful, beautiful woman, you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh.
But holy shit, $10 in like 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Tiger Lily.
That's good.
I mean, that's the thing, is she supports the people that, that she likes. And I highly respect that.
Let's be honest, she's only here because I'm here.
Well, yeah,
she was here before then. She was here before then.
Well, she was here, she knew I'd show up.
It's not all about your ginger ass.
Okay. You
see, please, you love my ginger ass.
He's like plankton. He's 98% hot gas,
Dude, he is like plankton. I totally agree with that statement.
Fuck you. You know
But
you love it.
But does that make you Mr. Krabs, Vash? Like,
I don't know. I'm more of the sarcastic computer wife, I guess.
oh, Squidward. Oh, I gotcha.
No,
All
no,
right.
no. The computer that Plankton has that just goes like, "You're an idiot. This isn't going to work."
But okay, we were talking about the Civil War earlier. Now we've moved on a little bit, and we're talking about what the modern Civil War with Antifa.
I wouldn't really call it a civil war just yet.
I think that it's more of a it's a three faction fight type of thing, and it's an invisible war rather than a civil war. I think that there are three factions in America that are fighting against each other. They're mainly using these movements as a way to do it.
They
Like,
use them as a crutch.
well, I mean, what they're doing is there's a lot of movements throughout history that have originally had a very good cause and originally worked successfully. But whenever somebody else took the reins of that movement, they used it to seize power. And what we have here is three different factions that are trying to do the same thing.
Tiger Lily, do you think I care if you're older than I am?
Hey, Tiger Lily, he wants a mama.
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you like older women, Gunslinger?
I like all women. Yeah, I don't give a shit.
As for me,
Well,
I'm pretty much guys, girls, anyone that bows to me.
You are the ball licker. In other words, no I'm kidding. God damn it. Another Jane and Silent Bob joke. My bad. But no. Okay, so the three factions you're talking about, what are they? Democrats, Republicans, and the Libertarians? Or is there really just two factions? The people that support free speech and the people that fucking don't.
Well,
That would be my contention.
Like I'm saying, there's all these movements and stuff, but have you noticed that every movement that's been coming up has pretty much been similar to the other movements by whenever they're pushing an agenda, so to speak? Like, I can't necessarily name these different movements, but
These Jews, Patrick.
yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if they're Jews, though. That's the thing, is, like, Patrick, you might be onto something if you weren't a racist fucking prick. Well, the Jews aren't a race, but if you weren't I don't know.
They're close, right? I mean, it's neck and neck. I mean, are they a race? Are they a religion? It's kind of both.
Well, I mean, I guess if you would refer to the Hebrew people as Jews, then I guess, but I wouldn't consider that because like. But what I'm saying is these three factions would basically be underground. They would have a high amount of money or influence of some sort if it wasn't monetary. I believe one of these factions aren't monetary, and that they don't really necessarily have the funds to do all the things that they want to do. So they use their influence to get what they want. Then there's the second one, which I would say is like I would call them the Richies. They're the people that generally are trying to manipulate the law. There's a lot of these people are human trafficking, and they usually get their money based on a cartel business type of thing. And then there's
the wall just got 10 feet higher.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
Oh, sorry, my bad, dude. I totally interrupted you.
well, I mean, like that's that. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that's one of the things that I kind of agree with Trump on, and I don't think that it should be a wall though. But at the same time, I think that he's also like as we would say, he is a part of the fucking swamp.
Well, no, and my argument has always been that when it comes to immigration, we need more of an Ellis Island type of situation where you check them for diseases, you check them for their background. You know, if they're criminals, you don't allow them in. But other than that, you have an Ellis Island style of immigration where you
Like,
allow anybody in because we are a nation built on immigrants, and that is a fact. It really is.
yes, we are a nation built on immigrants. But what if we have the same situation that Australia did whenever they brought in these people and had people move out of their house in order to house these people? They basically would say, all right, look, you have a couple empty rooms, so we're going to have these people that you don't know that are from a different country that are possibly into gangs. I'm not saying all of them, but you know, statistically, whenever these people came into Australia, their crime rate went up 25%. Statistically.
God damn it, Loafer Sheffield, dude, you are fucking awesome. Check him for a copy of the Quran. He says, God damn it. God damn it. We are horrible people, but that's okay. Just
I mean, I don't necessarily say that. Like, I would say, I believe that it is. You cannot make the argument that the Muslim religion is a peaceful religion. Anybody that wants to make the argument, please, I want you to try and correct me on it, because I have read the holy scriptures of the Muslim religion, and I will tell you that even the ones that are saying that they're peaceful, they're still just they're not going to stop the people that are doing this. And anybody, and the other thing is any Muslim is allowed to lie to you about their religion because you're a non-believer.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn, read the scripts yourself, look at it on an unbiased opinion. Let's see here. Muhammad, whenever he wrote the whole 90, the whole 72 virgins or whatever, whenever he wrote that, you want to know what was happening? I can give you a historical fucking look at it. He was in a war. His people, his archers that were on the back line, the rules of war during that time were that whenever you killed somebody, the moment their body dropped, you took their gold. Whenever you were there, it was theirs. It was yours for the taking. Whatever they were, that was your claim. And what was happening was they were winning a war. They were posted up on the mountainside where there was like another area that they could have been flanked on. He had his archers covering that area and covering from the back line. Whenever the moment that they had started winning the war and they saw the warriors on the front line picking and taking the gold, those archers started going down to that area trying to claim it. The moment that that happened, he was flanked. So in order for that to not happen anymore, he said, oh, don't worry about that gold. Don't worry about that gold, because if you fight for this cause, if you fight for Allah, then you will, the gold that you see right here is nothing compared to the gold that you will get up there. And he made it to where his people believed in it, to where they were like, oh yeah, I can see these people on this front line and they're all getting this gold, but I know that, you know, I will get my gold in the end. Like I'll get my virgins and everything, because I am above getting this gold. And that's what he did, was he created soldiers that believed in Skycake and were willing to fucking die for it.
So what you're saying is he stole the Jew gold. That's what happened.
Yes.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page.
Yeah, he chipped away the streets that were made of gold in order to fund his holy war.
But you know, Lincoln is still a piece of shit, right?
Yep.
No, he's totally all right. And don't you see, we got a gunslinger, which is one of his ancestors. And can't you tell by
You better not be. You better not be, dude.
Trust me, my great I think it was my great grandfather who fought in the fucking Confederacy.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna be joining the Sons of Confederate Veterans. My great grandpappy, great grandpappy, actually served for the Confederacy.
Where's the Sons of the Haitians? Because my original settlers,
Sons of the Haitians.
Yeah,
wait, you're Haitian?
like my ancestry was my first grandfather, like great first grandfather, was a Haitian that was sent here to kill the settlers and then decided to settle here himself.
You're full of shit. You're just saying you're Haitian.
I'm dead serious. I can give you my last name, and you can trace it back to the very story I'm telling you.
Well, no, don't dox yourself, bro. But
no. I was saying give you my last name. I'm not going to sit here and just philander my fucking last name out for everybody.
Philander. I like that word.
Yeah, I know. I rarely get to use it, so I use it anytime or any chance I feel I can. You have to use those words whenever you can. I'm mostly Japanese and Cherokee. Oh my! Tiger Lily.
Awesome. Cherokee. Yeah. Yeah. You sound like a fucking What's the motherfucker's name that's married to Faith Hill? Tim McGraw. Yeah, my wife helped me out here. Yeah, you sound like a Tim McGraw song.
I have nothing to say to that. It's just
I thought that
like
was
I'm trying to come up with something, and I'm usually that is not in my fucking weaponry of fucking like comebacks. There, I can't. God damn.
Well, no. Lord Ferret is in the chat, and he says he's Polish and Native American. That makes a lot of sense, you fucking dumb Pollock. You fucking meathead. No,
hey, my grandfather that raised me was Polish.
I'm just kidding, Ferret. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you don't want him on your ass. Trust me.
He'll tell you to eat his kielbasa. That's what he'll tell you to do. That's probably what he's wanting to type. Oh, Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily.
Yeah, she wants her money back. What the fuck? What'd I do?
Damn.
God damn. Oh, it was the Pollock joke. I apologize. My bad. Well, I was making Irish jokes before. Should I go back to the Irish jokes? Is that more?
Back to the Irish jokes.
God damn. Okay. Oh, Ferret's laughing. Well, that's good. Glad we can crack you up, you fucking Pollock.
Yeah, like, you know, you got to just not be afraid. Like, especially with the crew that comes around for me, just don't be afraid to offend them. As a matter of fact, they'll probably respect you even more so just by telling them, fuck you, this is how I think.
You ain't offended me.
And I'm offended by the fact that these people are offended. So who can say that they're more offended? If I'm offended by you taking offense to my offended joke, yeah. Try and fucking figure that out in court.
Okay, that was not mental gymnastics. That was fucking That was fucking mental jujitsu, motherfucker. What the fuck was that?
Stop taking that joke.
I'll take all the jokes, motherfucker.
Golden bigots. Wait a minute. Golden bigots.
That
What makes
sounds
us golden?
that sounds like a Mile High Club or something.
No, that sounds like a punk rock band.
We're the
Like,
Golden
you know,
Bigots.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
And we decided to we decide to run the state however we want because we're the Golden Bigots. You see. I like to have a nice Chianti while I watch my pool boy Ricardo. Yes. Okay.
yeah, okay. All right. Okay, Fukin. I was on cell fucking autocorrect. Oh yeah, so you were trying to say fucking. Okay, I gotcha.
Autocorrect changed fucking to fucking. What the fuck are you typing, motherfucker?
Fucking. That was the Canadian way of you're fucking piecing me off. Eh?
Yeah, A. Yeah, don't forget the A. Yeah, you have to have that.
Now listen here, you're gonna make me real mad like. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna get really offended. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to kick your ass because you're fucking pissing me off.
How I
I
boot
don't trust
you, go fuck
Canadians.
yourself. A boot. I love that word.
What are you talking about?
God damn it. Okay. All right, guys. Do we have anything else going on, or should we end this shit show?
We're just pretty much just talking randomly at this point.
Yeah.
But it's at least it's entertaining. I would argue that, you know.
It's halfway entertaining. People basically just come to see my pretty face.
Oh yeah. They all love you. Go fucking boot yourself. Come on, that was good.
High low life living right here. Living the high life, but with a low cost.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
we're gonna beer budget.
We're gonna boot this motherfucking spoon. Thank you everybody for watching. We're out of here. Good night. Good luck.
Thank you, Tiger Lily, so much for the donation too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, no, and the kid's crying. I don't know why. I didn't beat him. I swear.
You didn't get consent to change the nappy.
Yeah, God damn it. No, thank you very much, Tiger Lily, for the donations. I appreciate everybody who donates on Patreon and Streamlabs. Good night. Good luck. We're fucking out of here.